Dark Timber Coffee is kind of a hunter, angler, sort of hook and bullet focused coffee company. We wanted to create a company that gave back to the resource that we love so much. Like every $10, $1 of that goes to conservation. So if you spend $50, $5 go. These companies, and they're roasting these defective coffees, and then they're brewing them and then dehydrating them. We understand this coffee. We know where this coffee wants to live in terms of its roast profile. So that means that we can get the best coffee possible from the best growers possible. And I look at it, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? You know what I mean? Like, this is such a powerful name, you know? Everybody was there. Nobody was born with a 6-point rack in their hand. Like, everybody was there at some point in their life. This is Tony Burlison with Dark Timber Coffee, and you're listening to Living Country in the City, episode 28.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 28 of Living Country in the City. Living Country in the City is brought to you by Bowhunter Brotherhood. There's a thread that binds all men and women who love hunting in the outdoors, whether you're at full draw on that trophy animal or simply enjoying the sunrise from the door of your tent. That common thread is what Bowhunter Brotherhood represents. Check out the latest blog entries and videos on the Bowhunter Brotherhood website and get 10% off all purchases in the Bowhunter Brotherhood store by visiting livingcountryinthecity.com/partners. We are almost there, y'all. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and have entered my 2,000 follower giveaway. There's hundreds of dollars worth of prizes up for grabs from incredible companies like Mountain Ops, Bowhunter Box Club, Elk 101, Bowhunter Brotherhood, Hunt and Fool, and tons more. It only takes a minute to enter, and there's a bunch of ways to score bonus entries. Head on over to the giveaway post on Instagram or visit livingcountryinthecity.com/2K. Now, one more reminder before we get started. I am in a competition to raise funds for backcountry hunters and anglers, the Hike to Hunt Challenge. If you're a hunter, camper, angler, hiker, or just anyone that loves our public lands and wants to see them protected along with the wildlife that lives on them, you need to get involved. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is an incredible organization and is on the forefront of the fight to protect our public lands. What I'm asking from y'all is to head on over to hiketohuntchallenge.com and make a donation to Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Now, if y'all make the donation on behalf of me, Samuel Ayers, Living Country in the City, and email your donation receipt to info@livingcountryinthecity.com, I'll pledge to hike 1 mile for every $5 donated. Additionally, I'll match the largest single donation with up to 100 pounds in my pack and live stream myself hiking up to Griffith Observatory. Now, if the number well exceeds that $100 mark, I'll take on something even more funny or crazy or challenging, but you'll have to see what that ends up being. Now, if you're all entered into my 2,000 follower giveaway, you can get bonus entries by donating. The first $10 donated on my behalf, you'll get 1 bonus entry. For every $5 on top of that, you'll get an additional bonus entry. The largest single donation gets 10 bonus entries in addition to everything else. So head on over to hiketohuntchallenge.com right now and make your donation. So today on Living Country in the City, we are going to talk coffee. I was listening to an episode of the Shoot in the Bowl podcast and recently learned about the guys from Dark Timber Coffee. Now, ever since I hopped on this keto diet and had to give up sugar and creamer, I've really been looking for some high-quality coffee to not only drink in the morning, but also take out into the backcountry. Well, after finding out these guys were hunters and supporters of some fantastic conservation organizations, I had to give them a try. And I'll tell you what, this coffee is hands down amazing. After I was able to pull my head out of my mug, I hit up Tony Burlison from Dark Timber to get him on the line. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Man, thanks so much for having me.
So, I always like to start with maybe just a little bit of background just about yourself and kind of your history with the outdoors and hunting.
Yeah, so I've been involved in the outdoors pretty much my entire life, from growing up steelhead fishing and up here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, hunting and fishing from an early age, and that's kind of been our lifestyle. It's kind of what we do.
So just definitely been living it for a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely, life up here.
So now, starting Dark Timber Coffee, I'm assuming you also have a bit of a background with coffee too. This isn't just something, you weren't just sitting out in the woods someday and you suddenly thought, I'm gonna start a coffee company for hunters. Like, I'm assuming you have a bit of a prior background with coffee as well. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do. I've been in the coffee industry for pretty much 15 years. Kind of involved in all aspects of it, from, green coffee sourcing at origin, creating coffee roasts for companies here locally, large companies here locally. I started off when I was about 20 years old. I saved up all my money and bought my first espresso cart and just kind of grew it from there. I opened up a few more locations after that in downtown Seattle, ended up selling them off and going to work for a larger company to kind of build and create their coffee program. And just recently, as of a few months ago, probably 4 months ago, we kind of separated and we started Dark Timber Coffee. Dark Timber Coffee is kind of a hunter angler sort of hook and bullet focused coffee company.
I like that term. I like that term, hook and bullet focused.
Right. Yeah, kind of catchy, right?
I'm stealing that one whenever I can at this
point. Yeah, man, do it. All yours.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Dark Timber. You started getting into that. One, the name is just kind of badass. I mean,
yeah.
It just.
What's funny about the name though is, like, I loved it, right? Like, I was all about that name. I loved it so much, but it was like most of the people that I would be like, yeah, like they'd ask what names I was thinking of, and I'd be like, Dark Timber. That was one of the ones where like, I don't know.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, nobody was really sold on it. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Like, I don't know.
Look at it, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? You know what I mean? Like, this is such a powerful name, It
just, like, what it evokes for me is like that moment when you're in the woods, it's early in the morning, you're just in that thick brush that you can barely see through.
Right.
Like, I'm picturing the fog, it's dawn, the sun's not up yet. You can smell, like, I can smell the dirt when I hear that name, It's like,
right.
It's just super, it evokes that just super rich rich feeling. And the second I heard that name, I was super digging it. I was like, that name is perfect.
Right. Yeah. I kind of came up with it elk hunting last year in Idaho, and just sitting there, and pretty much all the bulls, as soon as the sun comes up, they're going to go hit that. At least where I hunt, they go to the bottoms, right? The super dark old growth stands. It's just this super dark timber. It's super light outside, right? Super sunny, not a cloud in the sky, but you go in there and it's like just dark, right? And it's just sitting there, and was still in the process of trying to come up with a name, right? And it just hit me right there as I'm listening to this 6-point go nuts.
Well, man, I personally think you just hit the nail on the head. It really is. And it ties in so well with the group of people you're really trying to reach out to. It just evokes, it really evokes a feeling, just the name itself, which I think is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it can like transport people back, or you know what I mean? It's pretty cool,
Well, in coffee, it's like, a lot of the time when you're drinking, I mean, yeah, we're both from kind of the center of the city right now. And so often, we're not always drinking our coffee in that nice, relaxed moment, but it's, we're sometimes on the rush with it in a travel mug. But generally coffee, I feel like that coffee in the morning is that reflective time. It's that, that kind of very introverted, personal time in the morning for me when I can make it that. And that's the same, one of those same things, like when you're out in the woods, it immediately transports you back there. That's
I couldn't agree more, man.
So kind of what made you want to start this? What was your inspiration for starting your own company, but then starting one focused on hunters and anglers, the Hook and Bullet?
Yeah. So, like I touched on before, I had been a part of sort of a larger company, and that's sort of that larger corporation sort of deal. And it just wasn't for me anymore, right? It didn't line up with my ideals, my values, what I was interested in, and what I felt like a company should be giving back to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Dark Timber was started to sort of cater to, again, like that hook and bullet crowd, sort of, the hunter, the backcountry hiker, the backcountry angler with, an ingredient of conservation. So we wanted to create a company that gave back to the resource that we love so much, right? It gave back in terms of, dollars to help protect public lands and public wildlife. That's huge for us because we are 100% DIY public land hunters. And we want to make sure that we are doing as much as we can to help protect that, right? So my daughter has the opportunity to do the same things that I love, and I can pass on that to her. So that's one of the main focus for starting, Dark Timber Coffee and being sort of in that sort of group.
I love that. I mean, it's, that's one thing when people talk about the DIY public land hunter, that speaks a lot to me because, I'm always traveling for, I'm pretty much, it's impossible to get tags here in California for.
Right. I mean, you guys can get blacktail tags, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in those.
We can get, we have some awesome deer tags and there's great opportunities for bear, deer, and pig here.
Right.
But you want to do anything bigger, you want to chase some elk. It's tough. I mean, I was just talking about it this morning. I was doing an Instagram live stream and I was kind of rambling on about the Thule elk we have here in California. And those things are cool. Those things are really, really cool. It's our own subspecies of elk that's nowhere else. But, trying to get a tag for anything like that is just, it's difficult enough just because we're in California. But then there's so many people that don't want to have to travel. And so it's definitely unless you're max points, you're pretty much out of luck.
Right. And what is max point for something like that?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. It's gotta be
like right here in Washington, we're running 20 points, I think, max on some of our stuff. I
remember
which is a lot,
I feel like I was talking to someone recently who said they didn't get a tag this year and they had at least 13 points.
Okay.
It was either 13 or 17 that they said they had and they didn't draw a tag. So I'm assuming it's got to be up there around 20 as well. And then for the Thule elk, and that's because we have all three species of elk here, subspecies of elk here in California. We have Roosevelts, we have Rockies, and we have Thule. It just depends on where you go, but the Roosevelts and Rocky are tough to get.
Right. Majority of those are in the northern portion, right? Like,
yep.
The Rosie's on the border of Oregon, and then over to the east,
we got the Rockies,
area,
yeah.
I got some Rockies.
And and so getting the Rosies and Rockies is tough. But the Thule, it's like there's a few hunts you can put in for, and then they do kind of it's like a fundraising hunt. You can buy as many entries as you want, and it's a drawing kind of a thing. But it's one of those things. It's a once in a lifetime hunt. And to be honest, I always say there's certain things I'm really glad that I put in for that I'm really glad I didn't get this year, because if I'd gotten that Thule hunt, if I'd gotten some of these really cool hunts I put in for this year without quite as much experience under my belt as I'd like, I would have been really nervous. But we're like I was saying, it's when you talk about wanting to give back to these groups that support public lands, that really speaks a lot to me. And I heard you guys, I think you're on the Shooting the Bull podcast, right?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, you were. That's where I first heard about you guys, and they're kind of talking about how you do give back, and I'll let you go into that a little bit more. But that was honestly, the second I heard that, I was sold. I really was sold.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about specifically how you guys give back?
Yeah, so the way we give back is we give back 10% of every sale to a list of conservation organizations that are at kind of the forefront of, the issues that we think are most paramount right now, and that's mainly the public land issues. And we do that through our website. So when you buy something from us, there'll be a drop-down menu, and on that drop-down menu will be 3 organizations where you can choose where your 10% of that sale goes to. So whether it's Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, or Wild Steelhead Coalition, you get to choose where that money goes. And we do our sort of payouts quarterly, right? So every quarter we'll kind of tally everything up, and then we'll distribute that money to them.
And that number right there, that 10%, that is no joke. That's not.
It's huge. Yeah, it's big. And I'll be honest. When we tally stuff up, like we're getting ready to do our first quarter payout. I mean, it's a big chunk. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing this for like a marketing ploy, right? So you see, everything's great, right? I'm not dogging anything. Everything's great. 1% of sales, everything helps. But we wanted to make sure that we were making a difference, right? We wanted to make an impact, right? When a company as small as ours, 1% of our sales probably wouldn't amount to anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure that we were creating a number that was large enough to make that impact that we wanted, but also not too large where it made it hard for us to operate.
Yeah, I mean, there's no... it's all well and good to give a ton of money to these conservation organizations, but it doesn't do a lot of good if you can only do it once and then you're out of business.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So definitely, you take a hard look at the economics of that, and hopefully we can keep that number, right, moving forward into the future. But yeah, we're happy to do it.
That's great. I mean, a lot of companies, like you said, not dogging on anyone that gives their 2%, their 3%, whatever that may be.
Right.
And it's,
everything helps. Everything helps.
But it blew me away when I heard that number. I was like, dang, that's a real feel good number right there. When you're making a purchase, you're like, it's one of those things where you can look at that and you can, like, you just mentally do the math right away, and you're like, that's $5 right there, or that's, $2, or
yeah. So I like every $10, $1 of that goes to conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the way it works for us. So if you spend $50, $5 go.
And with the way I've been drinking coffee lately, I'm doing a huge part for conservation.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it. It's one of those things. It's like, it's just $1, right? But it's not like something that's built in where it's like, hey, donate an extra $1.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll take that out of our end.
And that's the other thing that I thought was really impressive. It's not an additional, hey, would you like to add on to your purchase to for this donation? It's coming from you guys.
Right.
It's like, okay, by purchasing from us, you're helping with conservation, but this isn't extra money, coming off of the consumer. This is coming from you guys. So it's additional money that, because I feel like a lot of the times when you see that stuff, when it's like, oh, round up for conservation or add an extra $1,
mm-hmm.
that little bit of feel good almost keeps people from donating or putting their efforts elsewhere.
Right.
Versus when it's coming out of your guys' end, for me, I'll still go do my other stuff. I'll, get my memberships, put in my donations, whatever it is.
Right, as you should, right?
Yeah. Just because I know it's like it's a weird mental thing. It's like I know it's not coming out of my cut. So I'm still willing to go otherwise.
Well, a lot of times you'll see companies that do have a model similar to mine or to ours, and their prices are just crazy. You know what I mean? Like
So they're definitely...
Yeah, they build it in, right?
Yep.
So, like, right now, if you look at our prices, I mean, they're not crazy at all. So you know that it's not built into our price. But, like some companies will be in that, like the $16 to $17 a bag. You know what I mean? So they're making sure that they're getting what they want out of their product, and then,
Yeah, definitely. They're building that into the price rather than it actually just...
Exactly. Yeah, they built it right into the price. So.
Yeah. And speaking of that, your guys' prices are super reasonable.
Yep.
Let's talk about the products for a little bit. Right now, you kind of have your two main bodies of products, if you will. You have the coffee itself, you can buy bags of coffee.
Uh-huh.
But then there's the cool feature that also kind of originally drew me to you guys is the Ascent Packs.
Yeah, our Backcountry coffee pack. Yeah.
So I've tried the French press stuff. I've tried, like the little jet boil French press, which never has worked for me correctly. I've not gotten that thing to work correctly once. I've tried
pretty much the consensus with those things, and I've tried them too, and they're great, right? They're a great option for the backcountry. For guys that don't want to do a single serve pack like our scent pack. They work really well. They just, it's sometimes the grounds get by the gap.
Sometimes that's being very generous.
Right. I will give you one little hack with that thing though. So our scent pack, you can use that thing with our scent packs, right? You can slam them down just like you're making a French press. A lot of like our friends and our customers do that.
I thought about that just because I love that. I don't even know what to call it, but the film, not a film. The film makes it sound gross, but that just extra dark little bit you always get at the bottom of your cup when you pour from the French press.
Sediment.
The sediment. There we go. That's the right word. That's like the best part of French press coffee. And
dude, it really is. That's where all that body comes from in the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's got that sort of that depth to it. All that extra sediment that's in that coffee. When I'm making or drinking French press coffee, even the scent packs will do it. I keep like kind of swirling my cup or whatever, like a wine glass, right? To keep those sediments kind of elevated in the water or elevated in the coffee. So I make sure that I'm drinking them, right? Instead of letting it settle to the bottom.
That's the total money part right there. It was funny when I first started drinking coffee. And we'll definitely get into this. I was not drinking good coffee, and when I first started French pressing, like I'd drink that, I'd kind of get that sediment, and I'd want it to settle because I wouldn't want to drink it because it was just it was gross and it interfered with the taste of the creamer and sugar I was pouring into my coffee.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I've tried kind of all the different camping coffee. I've tried it all. I've tried the instant coffee, and it just tastes like burnt, hair.
Yeah,
and
that stuff's rough, man. I mean, it really is rough stuff.
Even buying like the top shelf, whatever, it just tastes gross to me. And I would.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, they're like the word, like very top shelf and instant don't go together.
Yeah, it's just not
They do not go hand in hand. You cannot have. I mean. You could have the best of, right, instant. Mm-hmm. I guess that would be considered like the top shelf of instant, but instant in itself, it can never be good.
Yeah. Well, it got to the point where I was making my own for camping, where I'd like get a little teeny snack baggie, and I'd put in the instant coffee, but then I'd just pour in a bunch of powdered creamer and sugar, so I wouldn't, so I wouldn't taste the actual coffee. Yeah. But these Ascent Packs are, and to be completely honest, I'm surprised it took someone so long to come out with this product.
Right.
They're absolutely brilliant. Why don't you talk about the Ascent Packs a little bit?
Yeah. So the Ascent Pack is our sort of single serve sort of coffee for the backcountry. Like, so if you don't want to bring in all the tools that you would need to create or to brew sort of French press coffee or AeroPress coffee or whatever in the backcountry, the Ascent Pack is considered like the best option. And what it is, it's sort of like similar to like a French press, right? So you have full immersion coffee. It's encapsulated in a proprietary filter that we came up with that's a sort of a grid waffle design. So it lets out the right amount of sediment into the coffee. So you get that sort of French press mouthfeel to it, the French press cup profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super easy. It takes about 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes before it's, good to drink. We just keep them in our cup. We never take them out, right? You can take it out if you want. We like to leave them in there. Similar to like the grounds in the bottom of your French press.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get rid of those. So we like to keep them in there. But it's a great option, and it's not freeze dried. It's not blast furnace instant coffee where they're buying the bottom of the bottom in terms of quality, right? These companies, and they're roasting these defective coffees, and then they're brewing them and then dehydrating them.
Yeah.
This is all specialty grade coffee. This stuff is top notch coffee. It's tough to find better in a single serve application.
And I love these Ascent Packs because I typically buy. I've picked up both. I picked up both blends of your Ascent Packs, and I picked up a bag of whole bean coffee.
They did the additional bag.
Yep. We had I was sitting there and I put in my order for the Ascent Packs, and then I looked in the freezer and I'm like, crap, I'm almost out of whole beans.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to get some good coffee. And so I put in the order, and I remember hitting you up on Instagram. That's kind of when we started talking. I'm like, help, I need my coffee now.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
But, so normally I do the whole beans, and it's like my kind of zen moment in the morning, like we were talking about earlier. I love to hand grind it myself. I've got the little hand grinder that I can adjust to if I'm using my French press.
That's awesome, man.
And it's great, but the problem is those days I sleep through my alarm or I'm just running late, I can't always do that. And I'll admit, I love being able to just grab an Ascent Pack, throw it in boil some water, pour it in a travel mug, throw in the Ascent Pack, and go. And by the time I'm sitting on the metro, I'm chugging down fresh brewed coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
And the great thing is, I recently started a new diet. I'm doing a ketogenic diet now, so I've had to give up a lot of stuff like sugar and Coffee Mate, sugary Coffee Mate French vanilla, and
French vanilla. I was just gonna say that.
Man, that and the hazelnut, I would alternate. But I had to give that up, and I started doing Bulletproof Coffee, which is fantastic. It makes this really rich coffee with the cream and the butter, but it doesn't, unless you're using like really heavily salted butter or anything, it doesn't really alter the flavor of the coffee. So when you're doing that with crappy coffee, it still kind of tastes crappy.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, you can't really get like or do like bad in and get good out, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of a good in, good out deal with coffee.
On that note, let's hear a quick word from one of my partners.
Hey y'all, as hunters, we are constantly on the move. Whether it's a scouting trip, heading to the range, training for the hunt, or searching for sheds, providing the fuel to sustain this high-intensity lifestyle requires top-quality food options, and you shouldn't have to compromise the quality of your nutrition when you're on the go. Rugged Meats is here to provide superior nutrition anywhere or anytime, no matter what the hunt is throwing at you. Their snack sticks are made from 100% free-range, wild-caught, forest-raised boar, and all products are guaranteed to be free of any added nitrates, MSG, and gluten. Plus, they come in several different flavors and options so you can find the best way to power your pursuit.
Check out the Rugged Meats website and get 10% off all purchases from Rugged Meats by visiting our partners page at livingcountryinthecity.com/partners. So now you were talking about, you were saying, the Dark Timber coffee, this is not bottom of the barrel coffee. You've been doing this for 15 years.
Yep.
Coffee. So tell me a little bit about what differentiates Dark Timber. What makes, like I said, I know nothing about what makes a good coffee versus a bad coffee other than when I smell it and taste it and be like, oh, glory, hallelujah.
Right.
Tell me a little bit just about the coffee itself.
Yeah. So Dark Timber, we source only the best coffees that we can get our hands on. So these aren't like price focused coffees, right? Like some companies are like, oh, we got to stay in this sort of price range per pound, right?
Okay.
We'll kind of pay whatever's needed to get the coffee. So that means that we can get the best coffee possible from the best growers possible. So we source only the best green coffees we can, and we pay whatever we can for them. So that means that the coffees that we're roasting and offering are the best of the best, beyond something more like a cup of excellence, which would make it unapproachable for people to buy at like $30 a pound. But yeah, it gets pretty high up there. So beyond sourcing the best coffee that we can from the best growers that we can, we roast it very well. All right. So we really know how to roast coffee. We know how to develop coffee in a roasting application. We're not just now figuring it out, right? So we've been doing it a long time. So, going back to that sort of good in, good out. So we take the best green coffee we can, roast it extremely well, right? We understand this coffee. We know where this coffee wants to live in terms of its roast profile, right? We're not just going to take some really good coffee and roast it to heck. So it's this dark, oily coffee where you're not going to taste the subtle nuances of the coffee, right? You're just going to taste that smoky, sort of carbony flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So we're developing these coffees in terms of their flavor. So the end product is extremely good.
So have you considered at all? I know you talk about very specifically roasting and doing this. Have you considered at all carrying and selling just green coffee as well for people to roast on their own if they wanted to do that?
If somebody wanted to do that, they could get a hold of me. I don't, there's a company called Sweet Maria's, and you might have sort of researched them. They're local to you, actually.
Okay.
I think they're in Oakland. They do that. So, and they would probably be the better one to do that, sort of buy that green coffee. But if somebody wanted to buy a little bit of green coffee or whatever, we could definitely, hook them up. But I don't think that would be something we would offer on our website right now, at least right now.
That's one thing I think I have heard of Sweet Maria's. My brother-in-law and my mom actually used to, I don't know if they still do it, but that was their big thing for a while. They each bought, different coffee roasters and would buy, have green coffee shipped in. And that was like their thing. I swear every time I would go up to visit, that's all they were talking about for a period of a few months was the different coffees they were ordering in and how they were roasting them. And I mean, both houses smelled incredible for the entire time I was up there, because it was just, they were constantly, if they weren't grinding it, or if they weren't roasting it, they were grinding it or whatever. There was always something going on. But that kind of brings up, though, you mentioned, calling you up and kind of putting in that custom order. That's another thing I really noticed on the site that you guys offer that a lot of companies don't, is super customization of what you need. So when I order whole beans because I enjoy grinding them by hand. Mm-hmm. That's part of my process, but you offer pretty much any kind of grind you want up on the website. And then if there's something super specific or special, I think, you're talking about like Turkish coffee or something, even, you can call you up and be like, okay, I need it at this specific grind for this specific purpose. And you guys are willing to ship that out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. If you need anything like, like a percolator, and all these are like kind of in between each other, right? So you have an auto sort of gravity coffee, like automated coffee brewer, and you have a French press, right? So you have this percolator coffee that kind of lands right in the middle on optimal particulate size, optimal grind size. We want to make sure that your coffee's perfect. So if you have something like that and that's not sort of offered on the drop-down grind setting selection, you can just email me or however you want to get a hold of me, and we'll do it for you. No problem.
Message you on Instagram last minute and beg you. to send out
Dude,
a bag of coffee.
Exactly.
No, that's one thing I feel like is really cool. You guys have a great attention to detail and customer service. You've been super responsive whenever I've needed to order something, and I'm about to. I was gonna say I'm about to put in. I'm getting about 3/4 of the way down my current bag, and so I'm about to put in another order.
All right, repeat customer.
Oh yeah, no, that's where I remember. So here's the thing. I remember when I got this bag. I was kind of finishing off the last bag, and so it was about a week, maybe a little bit less, before I actually opened the bag of dark timber.
Oh yeah.
And I remember opening that, and the smell hit me, and I just, oh my gosh, guys, whoever's listening, this coffee is just incredible. It may sound like hyperbole, whatever it is, but the smell is so rich, and it's like I could have sat there for a good 5 minutes. I did sit there for like a minute or two and just kind of smelled the coffee and enjoyed it. And then, the whole time I'm grinding it, that scent's wafting up, and I never in my life thought, I could just drink black coffee. And I between doing the keto and the Bulletproof Coffee, and then just sometimes having to get out of the house, but wanting that cup to wake me up in the morning, and kind of as part of my process, I started drinking this coffee, and I never thought I could drink black coffee before. And this stuff is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And that's pretty indicative of like really nice coffees, right? So, you don't have those off flavors, right? Those kind of defective flavors, or coffee that's roasted really dark. So it's like super, almost bitter, right? You have all that carbon in there.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal with coffee is to have coffee sort of taste how it smells.
Yep.
So you'll notice with our coffee, it smells really good, and it's sweet and very aromatic. And then when you drink it, it's kind of the same, right?
Yeah, you don't get a lot of change once it's in the cup.
No, and that's the kind of the goal, because you can get coffees that smell really good when they're ground up, and then you taste them, and it's like, you got to put all that cream and sugar and everything in them. With our coffees, they're going to taste very similar to how they smell.
Now, here's the other thing as well. I've yet to try that. I've yet to give this a try, typically because I'm enjoying it too much, and it's never gotten to the point where I've let the coffee get cold. But I remember, I don't know if it was on the Shooting the Bull podcast, or if it's I think it's been both, that I've talked to people about it before. A really good coffee, you should be if it goes cold, it still tastes good when you drink it. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Yeah. So with really high quality coffees, once those go cold, they should still be good. They're gonna be a little bit less in terms of depth on the flavor, but they'll still be good coffee.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of coffees that you'll see that are kind of varying or kind of iffy in quality will be decent hot, right? They'll be okay. Once they get cold, they're almost undrinkable.
Yeah.
That's when all those defective notes come out, all the stuff you really don't want.
I almost feel like
it will come out when they get cold.
It's almost kind of like the complete inverse of beer. You can drink just about any beer when it's like ice cold and frosted over.
Right.
It kind of covers the defective taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the second it's just not super cold anymore. Like a really good beer, I can sit and drink if it's a little bit warmer, like a good pint. I have no problem drinking if it's not obviously completely warm on a hot day, kind of warm, but if it's not ice cold anymore. But some of these beers, and so I feel like it's kind of the complete inverse of that.
Right.
Oh, actually, you know what? Something I almost forgot to ask you about. So you guys have just finished up a competition to name your new roast.
Yeah.
You have a new roast coming out.
We have a new roast. We wanted just kind of, we could have obviously named it ourselves, right? We could have come up with a name. But we wanted to reach out to, our customers and our followers and just kind of ask them, what they would want the blend to be named or if they had any ideas. So that just ended last night, and I think you were the last one to get a submission in.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get home from work, and I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna do some research, and I'm gonna come up with like a couple of really good names.
Yeah, you came up with some good ones.
I was I have to admit, I'm pretty dang proud of my name. So when do you guys think you're gonna be selecting names? When's the roast expected to come out? All of that good stuff.
So the roast will come out in August. I think that we had like between Facebook and Instagram, we had over, I think, 115 entries or something.
And just a couple to go through.
Yeah, and a lot of those are like, they're like 3 names in each one. So we're looking at like, a couple hundred entries in terms of names to sift through.
I was kind of laughing that some of the guys that entered, they would just drop like every word that had to do with hunting or the outdoors that they could possibly think of that kind of sounded cool.
Right. And that's great. Like that's how you come up with names, right?
Oh yeah. It's like a brainstorming, spitballing kind of activity.
It really is. It's like a panel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great that they do stuff like that. You know what I mean? 'Cause, that's how you come up with names. But there is in some of those entries a lot in one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Some of those guys are like, 10 per submission. So, but we'll probably pick a winner here next week. And there's a few that stuck out right away, but definitely going to go through all of them and make sure that we're choosing the one that fits the blend the best and that conveys what we're trying to convey with the coffee and it's conveying what we are as a company as well, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying my entry was pretty dang good. Throwing it out there.
I know it was good. It's going to be right up there on the list with everybody else.
Oh man, but I even saw that TCRP threw in their own submission.
Yeah, they did. That's awesome. That company, the organization is full of such great people, and I can't say enough about those guys. And if your listeners out there, if they aren't members of the TRCP, I would
TRCP. I think I got that backwards.
The Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership.
Yeah. Okay. I just gotta learn how to spell, I think is what it is.
Right. It's kind of a tongue twister in a little bit. It's kind of a mouthful. I've definitely messed up, saying it a few times. But like I said, it's such a great organization, and your listeners should really, really become members if they aren't already, along with the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, BHA. They should become members of that as well, and Wild Steelhead Coalition, especially for you guys in California, Oregon, Washington. Steelheading's a big part of life.
That's one I'm definitely going to have to check out. I'm not, I'm familiar with Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. I'm super familiar with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. I've been super involved with them, but I've actually, until I started ordering from you guys, I'd never heard of the Wild Steelhead Foundation.
The Wild Steelhead Coalition.
Coalition.
Was started over 10 years now, longer than that, by a group of anglers here in Washington. One of them is a good friend of mine. And they take on issues in terms of habitat, restoration. Right now there's a sort of I wouldn't call it, there's an issue with hatchery fish, right? So they're trying to get rid of the hatchery wild steelhead, sort of gene mixing right now.
Okay.
But they focus a lot on Washington, Oregon, that whole sort of West Coast region there, protecting habitat, right? And just looking out for steelhead, like the steelhead is Washington state fish, and it's in the dumps, right? It's a lot of these runs, especially in the Puget Sound, are ESA listed. They're on the list as being endangered, and some of these runs are functionally extinct, right? Once very robust flourishing runs of steelhead are now functionally extinct, meaning that there are some, but there's so few that they're going to mark them as not even around.
That's crazy.
Which is really sad. And I've seen a lot of this in my lifetime go downhill. And in my dad's lifetime, he's pretty much seen it all go, right? Which is really sad. That's just a blip of time to have historical runs like the Skagit, right? World-class run gone, you know.
Well, and it's crazy to think, you think about habitat and animals, going extinct basically, and you think big stuff, you think buffalo and elk and all, these large scale animals, even birds to a lesser extent, but
yeah,
you don't think fish, and people tend to kind of think like, fish are there, there's plenty of them, they'll always be there, nothing's going to really affect them, it's not that big of a thing, but we need to remember that fish are as important and as at risk as any other animal at any given time.
And they are. And it's difficult with fish because, like, say you're looking at like an animal, you can go and like observe that animal in its habitat. With a fish, you got to go underwater, so you don't like really know what's going on down there, right? A lot of the information out there is kind of guessing, especially on like ocean conditions and things like that. So it's tough. It's tough on a managing standpoint. So, yeah.
But alrighty. So I always like to end with possibly, the podcast is geared towards new hunters, people from the city, kind of like us, that are into the outdoor lifestyle, but may feel a little intimidated to start hunting or really get into fishing, all of this. What words of encouragement or advice would you give the new hunter or kind of the city outdoorsman?
That to just get out there. So, it may seem a little intimidating to kind of jump in feet first into that sport, right, of hunting, but just get out there and start doing it. Whatever you can. If it's just, getting out in the woods and understanding animals or whatever, man, just go do it, right? Don't feel intimidated that you're not the best or you don't have the best gear or whatever. Just go and do it,
Well, I think
you got to keep that tradition alive.
I think we're so afraid to fail when we go out that it stops us from going out at all. Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, if they look online, right, especially Instagram, and these guys have the best gear and they're killing these huge animals and all that stuff. It can be very intimidating to the new hunter, right? They're not going to want to reach out to people because they don't want to look or sound like they don't know what they're talking about, right? And that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt you, or that's going to hurt them because they're not going to progress, right? If they're not asking those questions and getting out there and doing that because they feel like they're going to look like a noob or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I told myself is I have to make sure I'm totally fine with looking like a complete newbie that doesn't have any idea what he's doing, because otherwise
everybody was there.
Yeah.
Nobody was born with 6-point rack in their hand. You know what I mean? Like everybody was there at some point in their life, whether it was, they started at a young age. So that learning curve, wasn't super long, or they're starting later on in life where it's going to take them a little bit longer to kind of figure things out if they didn't grow up in a hunting family. Right. So, but everybody starts at the same point.
Well, and it's just so ironic trying to like, and I know I was there. Like I felt those feelings to where it's like the fear of failure, the fear of looking like don't know what I'm doing, almost kept me from doing it in the first place. So it's this fear of possibly failing is guaranteeing that I'm gonna fail because I'm not going out in the first place. But
exactly. That's big. When
you realize you just need to go out and do it, and you're going to fail sometimes you're going to get lucky, and then sometimes you're going to succeed just by the skin of your teeth because you busted your butt. You just got to get out one way or the other and learn.
Exactly. And, try to find mentors and things, somebody that can help you in the right direction. Just bounce some questions off,
That's why I love doing this podcast is, I kind of have my mentor. He's, a guy I work with. He's really led me in the right direction on a lot of things. He's the first guy I go to when I have questions about stuff. But then, out of all of this, I've managed to score for whatever subject I'm talking about, a good 25 separate mentors for a good hour, and I get to learn from these people. And
yeah, dude, you're gleaning a lot off it. That's awesome.
Man, I love picking it up. I got my selfish reasons for doing the podcast. I'm not too shy to admit it, but anyway, Tony, thank you so much again for hopping on, talking about dark timber. I am excited to put in another order right now.
Awesome.
I am definitely looking forward to enjoying that. And, thanks for sitting, talking, hunting with us for a while.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this. I really did.
And we'll...
you got such a great show.
All righty, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, man.
All right, y'all. That'll do it for episode 28 of Living Country in the City. Make sure you head on over and give Dark Timber a try. You can find all those links on our show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/28. Now, I'll say it again. This coffee is amazing, and the Ascent Packs are not only perfect for the backcountry, but perfect for that day when you're scrambling out the door with no time to spare. I'd highly recommend you give them a go. Now, don't forget to stop by hiketohuntchallenge.com and make your donations to backcountry hunters and anglers on my behalf, and email your donation receipt over to me. And also, if you're enjoying the podcast, don't just check it out on the website each week, but search for Living Country in the City on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe. Additionally, if you could take a quick moment to leave an honest rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher, it really helps the podcast grow and helps me continue to bring on fantastic guests for y'all to learn from and about. Thanks, y'all. And until next time, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.
And really quick, Tony, are you a hunter yourself?
Yeah, I'm a big time hunter, man.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to double check before I asked the question, so it didn't turn into something weird.
No problem. Yeah, I killed a rabbit once.
Yeah. Oh, I felt really guilty afterwards. Oh.
Yeah. I buried it. I didn't eat it.
I mean, I still cry. I can't finish this podcast.